Our Dead World by Liliana Colanzi. The greatest adventure since the discovery of America. Slogan of the Martian Lottery. 1. A year after my relocation, Tommy wrote to tell me he was going out with someone else and that they were going to have a kid. It was a short message that still showed signs of old hard feelings. Don't write me anymore. Live your life. I've lived mine. You were the one who left. Tommy. I turned off the monitor and felt the immense loneliness of the planet in my bones. I looked at the security camera facing the outside. The blue flag of the Martian Lottery waved above miles of ochre-colored dunes where nothing was alive, a silent desert that breathed down your neck, eager to kill you. For the first time, I accepted that the trip had been a suicide mission, motivated by rage. Tommy is going to have a kid, I said to myself several times, and with each repetition, I fell a little more into that atmosphere, so light it was almost weightless. All the cells of my body were conscious of the vacuum. Tommy was going to have a kid with another woman, and I was stranded on a sterile planet on a life contract with the Martian Lottery. I felt my body dissolve and my eyes flood with tears. The forest, the light cut by pine branches. Tommy making his way through the fog. Beyond that, further on, the little house, the smell of firewood and eucalyptus. Outside, a few dust devils crossed the desert, terrifying whirlwinds that moved in stampede. I wanted to be inside one of them. I wanted to turn into an animal. My wristband lit up with a message from Zhukovsky. He detected frequencies near a crater and wanted us on reconnaissance. Shivering, I got dressed to go out. 2. I drove the rover under a cloudless, mercurial sky. We traveled through plains scattered with broken appliances, dying probes trying to communicate with Earth that had been discarded by the Chinese, Indians, Russians, and Americans. This dumping site of obsolete appliances had been here long before the first relocation. Zhukovsky mentioned a strange electromagnetism in the surroundings that could indicate the presence of volcanic activity, or extraterrestrial life, suggested Pip from the back seat as a joke, but we didn't laugh. Zhukovsky's mood had been volatile ever since the Choquet scandal exploded in the communication media, and I rebelled against that baby that had definitively forced me to leave Earth. I hope he dies. I hope he dies. God, I hope he dies. Just kill him. A deer jumped in front of the rover and looked at me with pleading eyes. A deer. On Mars. Golden, like the ones in the Urals. The kind that had jumped in the middle of the road when Tommy and I took the motorbike to the annual fair in Irbit at the start of summer, in happier times. Mirka, he says, and I cling to his waist and rest my chin on his shoulder. The road passes us and the wind cuts into our cheeks. The deer's eyes bored into me. I hadn't seen an animal in so long, not any living thing. Welcome to the annual motorcycle fair. Try our delicious gingerbread, our fragrant fish, and cream blinis. Overcoats made of Siberian fox fur. Petra Plevkova's 7 powerful puffs will bind you to your beloved to you forever. I slammed on the brakes. The tires of the rover skidded along the crag, and the vehicle hung there, a drunken boat on the rocks at the edge of a cliff. We were thrown in different directions, drawn toward the center of a whirlwind of bronze-colored dust. Zhukovsky yelled. Pip yelled. I don't know if I yelled. When everything was over, Pip complained in the back seat, and Zhukovsky looked at me saucer-eyed. Did you see? I started to say, but Zhukovsky yelled furiously. Did you see what? Fucking bitch, did you see what? I looked for the deer out there in the dunes. Nothing seemed to move now in the desert. Yet I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching us. 3. You're not pulling my leg, are you? Whispered Pib in the changing room as we put on our suits, preparing to venture into the hostile desert again. The deer was there, I insisted. It was Mirka, right? Nearby, Erica, Carlitos, and Tang Lin made bets about who was going to win the rugby tournament, the Old Blacks or the Coyotes del Norte. Those conversations depressed me, as did the references to small pleasures from our old life. Barbecues, bicycle rides, hot water baths. Each of us, in his own way, continued to orbit the Earth, satellites eternally circling what had been lost. We find blueberries, and fill ourselves with them until we're fit to burst. Tommy lets out a burp. An ant stings me on the arm, and I kill it with one hand. Drops of water begin to speckle the leaves. Shadows pass between the trees, making the branches rustle. Tommy listens, alert. I didn't see anything, Pip said, sounding worried. Besides, Mirka, seriously, a deer on Mars? My heart and head still felt out of control. We'd been on the verge of dying that morning in another world because of that deer, but I was alive. I told myself I was alive and a mirage distracted me in the desert, that was all. But something in Pip's persistence and gaze irritated me, poking at sensitive places. He points and shoots. The sound of the rifle echoes in the forest. He's dead behind the trees. We gut the elk with hunting knives. Tommy opens its chest and pulls out its worm heart, still beating. I wanted to return to my cell and fill myself with pills. The kind that made you dream of relaxing geometric figures, or tuck myself away in the massage cabin. But we still had to put up the damn solar panels. The vessel of the Martian lottery had already set off for Mars, and we had to produce energy for the new colonists on the way. A year and a half ago, I'd been one of them, an animal swimming in the cosmic blackness ever farther from Earth. I slid my arms into the flashy suit, designed to keep me alive in the unbreathable desert air. A wire fence. A rusty sign. Prohibited. The explosion happened here. We climbed the fence. The abandoned nuclear plant. Storks' nests on the roof. Broken window panes. Honeysuckle climbing the walls. The photo of a boy on a dusty desk. Berries grew everywhere, looking juicy. I pull one off and bring it to my mouth. Tommy makes it fly with a slap. They're contaminated, he says. Everything is contaminated. Choke saw strange things too, said Pip, looking around him, afraid the others had heard us. What? When he went crazy. Choke, the gardener of the colony. The one in charge of the greenhouse who'd escaped. They found him next to the crater, helmet in his hands, frozen and staring wide-eyed at the purple horizon. The Martian lottery still hadn't recovered from the bad publicity of the case. They'd lied and said Choke had died a hero, a victim of an open-air mission. Are you going to take a shower? Tommy asks. His shirt is soaked in the elk's dark blood. He takes off his clothes. I can see his broad back, the old scar on his neck from when his thyroids were removed. He runs towards the river. Pluff! After a while, his head pops up. He laughs. Come in, he calls. It's raining. It's starting to get cold. I remain on the dock. Silent. Thoughtful. Tommy and I saw the news about Choke on the television in Igor's bar. It announced the first casualty of a colonist on Mars, and said a star in the Magallanes galaxy had been given his name. I remembered it well, since that night I fought with Tommy and came back walking alone through the forest, thick with snow. During the resentment of that lonely walk, I considered for the first time the possibility of signing up with the Martian lottery. Sometime later, the truth about what happened to Choke, if truth were possible, was made public, but it was already too late for me. All that, the forest, Tommy, life in the Urals, was a destructive, incandescent radiance that I didn't want to give up. I have to tell you something, Tommy. He kisses me. It's important. He kisses me again and again. Seriously, Tommy. We have to talk. I'm pregnant. You have no clue what's happening to me. Leave me alone. I told Pip, dizzy, about to cry. Stupid, I shouldn't have told you anything. I'm sorry, he said, embarrassed, and looked me in the eyes. He was hopelessly ugly with a bulbous nose and yellow teeth. Can I tell you something, Marco? His ugliness blurred out of focus through my tears. I like you, he said, and put on his helmet to face the desert. 4. We're cooking. They knock on the door. They're men from the space program, looking imposing in their uniforms. We need volunteers, they say. Medical exams, they say. People who have been exposed to radiation all their life and are immune to its effects, they say. Travel to Mars, they say. Tommy and I look at each other. Commanded by Zukovsky, we set off on foot to the north wing to install the solar panels on the roof of the colony. Carlitos, Tanglin, and Erica went in front, telling misogynistic jokes that made Erica burst into loud laughter. How much does the brain of a blonde in space weigh? Same as on Earth. Nothing. Pip purposely fell behind to watch me. Although I'd been there for some time now, I still hadn't gotten over the terror of leaving for the outside with no protection but the uniform. At least the rover had formed a shell between us and that lethal atmosphere. Moving out of the airlock into the Martian outdoors was the equivalent of leaping into the void. I don't know what to say, America. Are you sure? Despite the uniform made of nylon and neoprene and the anemic sun shining overhead, my bones registered the presence of cold. The frightened flesh clung to its temperature, helped by the uniform, but the bone knew. We were so far from the sun. Glory, say the men. Country, they say. History. Before leaving, they gave us a pamphlet from the Martian lottery. The greatest adventure after the discovery of America. I took one step after another in the outside, noticing the way I was disintegrating. Within the colony, we acted out a certain normality. We filled the day with ping pong, board games, exercise. But the desert confronted us with the great senselessness of our condition. Miles and miles of barren plain, a rusty landscape in which the silver veins of rocks and dead silent volcanoes occasionally glinted. The body was absorbed, destroyed by that indifference. What should we do? I ask him. He won't look at me. It's the end of summer, and the leaves of the larch tree are turning a vivid yellow. I'm going to head out for a while, says Tommy. The roar of the motorbike. I stay up waiting for him until very late, but he doesn't come back to sleep. Murka, said Zukovsky, and his shrill, unpleasant voice echoed in my helmet, a scream in my ear. What are you doing just standing there? Do we have all day? I'd remained on the roof of the colony, unmoving, the panel in my hands. I saw Pip turn around and look at me, attentive and distressed. I raised my right thumb to let him know I was okay. Am I okay? He believed in the mission, believed in giving his life for the conquest of the world. An idealist or an idiot. A few months earlier, they detected skin cancer in him, the result of radiation. And if we have a monster? A boy with two heads? A fish boy? Like Daria's? With fins instead of arms and legs? Or Ivan Ivanovich's kid, born with a heart outside his chest? Have you thought of that? Obviously, I've thought of it. think of it all the time. On the colony, there was no radiation therapy equipment, yet Pip kept carrying out his tasks without complaining. Choke, on the other hand, had given in. One day he shut himself in his cell, surrounded by explosives he'd fabricated with fertilizer from the garden, and threatened to blow up the colony if he wasn't repatriated to Earth. Hours later, after the president had assured him a spaceship would be sent, Choke went into the desert and killed himself. I'm not going to have a fish boy, Tommy. I just can't. The irony never got old, that the only way of returning to Earth was as a corpse. On the roof, Pip finished installing the solar panel and came over to help me with mine, moving with difficulty in his heavy suit. In a short time, he had managed to maneuver the panel into the brackets of the roof. His permanent good mood irritated me, the naivety of his speech about the Martian lottery. But in any case, it was better to have him close, helping. I raised my eyes to thank him. Then, over his shoulder, I saw it. An enormous prehistoric fish emerged from the Martian surface and traced an arc of several meters in the air before plunging once again into the desert. 5. Fuck me, I said to Pip that night when he entered my cell and found me wearing only a dressing gown. The outside camera showed 2 misshapen moons rising in the clear sky and Earth twinkling 100 million kilometers away. We were never going to return. I was never going to see Tommy again. What have you done? The dressing gown slid down and fell at my feet. Pip looked at me in astonishment, eyes shining in his emaciated face. Cramps. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. One contraction, then another, until I lose count. What the hell did you take? Tommy asks. He paces from one side of the room to the other. You're not okay, said Pip. But his eyes were fixed on my body. I went toward him in the faint light of the cell. You're not okay, he repeated, taking off his uniform. I think I'm going to die, Tommy. What the hell did you take? Naked. He was even more ridiculous, so skinny and pale, with a tattoo of a jellyfish on his forearm. The cancer was eating away at him. With the last contraction, it falls in the toilet bowl, a clot of blood. I pick it up and carry it to the kitchen. In 10 years, neither of us would be alive, perhaps not even 5. The body dissolved little by little in the Martian environment, gnawed away by cancer and osteoporosis. The mind, too. We didn't look for condoms. Pip gave off a rancid smell, but I hugged him tight, overcoming my revulsion. On the kitchen table, I separate the bloody mass with a fork until I reach the hard, translucent little lump. It has everything it should. Arms, legs, fingers, even little eyelashes. He rubbed his penis against my thigh, and I closed my eyes, trying to concentrate on my favorite images, snowy mountains of iridescent white. But instead, I thought of Choke, imagined him running over that desolate plain. Where was he trying to run, and why had he taken off his helmet? He must not have lasted even 5 minutes before his organs started to rupture. A quick and extremely painful death. Pip groaned and lunged at me blindly, but he wasn't okay either. He couldn't get it up. It was as good as dead. He wasn't going to give in, though, because if you gave in, the desert swallowed you whole with its big, insatiable mouth, just like it had with Choke. Pip knew that, which is why he kept rubbing his soft dick against me. Give me a child, I whispered in his ear, and saw our sun splashing in a Precambrian ocean. For 7 months I floated in the belly of space. "Give me a child," I demanded, while Pip rammed me over and over again with his limp penis. Then the forest suddenly appeared before my eyes, and overcome by terror, I felt my fingers claw the earth, looking for a grip so as not to fall into the sky.